people. The democratic system in this country is broken because who you vote for doesn't necessarily get reflected in who your representatives are. We're just trying to rebalance the scales and, frankly, push back against a very unfair system created by the Democrats.
Here's how National Review summarized it. They said it was only 3 years ago that New York's Democratic legislature drew up a map so brazenly contemptuous of basic rules that govern a district's contiguousness that the state's Democrat-dominated Court of Appeals threw it out. The New York Times at the time called those maps comically contorted. That's their quote.
In today's video, what happens when a mainstream media anchor asks a question so direct a Democratic governor can't spin his way out of it? We're going to break down the explosive interview where the left's favorite narrative about free and fair elections completely falls apart.
So your state's highest court at the time, all the judges appointed by Democratic governors, they threw the maps out. So fair to say Democrats have done what they're now accusing Republicans of doing.
No, we followed the rules. We do it every 10 years. We base it on census.
But the court said you didn't follow the rules.
Well, we did follow the rules.
So the court was wrong?
Well, we followed the rules. And we didn't intend to do this again until the 2032 elections. But because we're in a different situation altogether that demands that leaders stand up and say, I'm not going to let our democracy be eroded away because there's a blatant power grab to maintain power in our nation's capital. This is what I call a legal insurrection. Mm-hmm. Legal insurrection. Just let the rules stay the way they are. We'll do it the way we always have. But here we have Texas and now going to other states. J.D. Vance, why aren't you looking out for how to lower a cost like you promised?
Well, there's no question that gerrymandering is a threat to our democracy. It allows politicians to pick their voters as opposed to citizens choosing their representatives. But we are now in a situation where we find ourselves where authoritarian moves are being made by the White House through various states, Texas most prominent among them. And there has to be a response to that. What I've said is that we have to protect our democracy now if we ultimately want to be able to save it. And so taking the reasonable steps that have been proposed in California, I think it makes a great deal of sense in this moment, a temporary way in which to respond to that which is happening in Texas, with the thought that after this crisis has passed, we get back to the fight against gerrymandering by anybody.
Before we get too far into this, smash the like and subscribe button. It really helps the algorithm to continue to keep the channel growing and getting news to you, the forgotten men and women of America. It's not every day you see a mainstream media journalist back a high-profile Democrat into a corner that they can't talk their way out of. But that's exactly what happened when an NBC anchor confronted a governor with his party's own hypocrisy on gerrymandering. And his answer tells you everything you need to know about the current state of our political system. For years, we've been told that gerrymandering, the art of drawing congressional maps to favor your own party, is a threat to democracy, a tactic used by one side to rig the game. Yet when confronted with the fact that his own state of Illinois has one of the most aggressively gerrymandered maps in the country, a map so skewed that nonpartisan watchdogs give it an F for fairness, the governor had no real answer.
Every major group that grades the fairness of congressional maps gives your state an F. Common Cause, a nonpartisan government watchdog, even says your map, and I'm going to quote, represents a nearly perfect model for everything that can go wrong with redistricting. And I guess the question is, you talk about preserving democracy. How do you preserve democracy if you're using the same tactics that you've criticized Texas Republicans for?
But as I say, what they're talking about is a distraction. The reality is that the violation of people's voting rights is what Texas is attempting to do. That's what's wrong with their efforts right now. And the fact that the president of the United States knows it and nevertheless is asking them to do it. That is what's wrong with what we're seeing right now. Democracy is at stake.
He tried to deflect, claiming what's happening in red states is somehow different, that it's a violation of voting rights. But the anchor held her ground, pointing out the glaring double standard. How can you condemn your opponents for using the exact same playbook that your party has perfected in states like New York, California, Massachusetts, Illinois? The list goes on. And here's the part they don't want to talk about. For decades, one side has been playing political hardball, rigging the system by drawing maps that guarantee their power, regardless of how the people actually vote. We see states where a significant percentage of the population votes Republican, yet they almost have no representation in Congress. It's a unilateral disarmament. Democrats have been fighting tooth and nail, while Republicans have for too long just accepted the unfair map.
Yeah, so another crazy thing that I had no idea about, but everybody, even Democrats actually admit this, that the census in 2020 had a major statistical error. And what that meant is that you actually undercounted a few states that are Republican, like Florida and Ohio. You overcounted some blue states. And so what I understand, if you actually did the census anew right now, you would have 10 additional Republican seats and 9 fewer Democrat seats. And really what we're living with, Maria, is the consequence of 40 years of institutional control in the Democratic Party. These guys have fought very dirty for a very long time, and they haven't just won elections and enacted laws that we may not agree with. They have tried to rig the game for Democrats and against Republicans. And thankfully, under President Trump's leadership, you finally see some spine. You finally see some backbone in the Republican Party to fight back against these very aggressive Democratic dirty tricks. But the only way for us to do it is to actually go and do the hard work to reset the scales a little bit. What we want to do is redo the census, but importantly, we want to redistrict some of these red states, and we want to make the congressional apportionment fair in this country. Again, you cannot do it unless Republicans actually take some very decisive action in the months to come. We think they will, and we're obviously supporting them every step of the way.
But do you worry that as Republicans do that, the Democrat blue states are going to do the same thing, and then you'll have redistricting in California, New Jersey, and so on?
You know, Maria, there's just not a whole lot of juice left out of that lemon. The Democrats have already gone as far as they possibly can. Let me give you a crazy statistic. So I believe that it's in New Jersey, Illinois, New York, California, and there's one other Democrat state where you take those 5 states, you have a large number of Democrat representatives. But here's the crazy statistic. President Trump won 43% of those 5 states, and Democrats have something like 85% of the representatives out of those states. You cannot gerrymander these far left states anymore. And that's the whole point. We have unilaterally disarmed in the Republican Party. We have said to the Democrats, if you want to rig the game in your favor in blue states, go ahead. We're going to do nothing to fight back against it. That's crazy. It makes it harder for us to pass our agenda. It makes it harder for us to win elections. And most importantly, it gives Democrats this ability to run roughshod over the country without any pushback from the American people. The democratic system in this country is broken because who you vote for doesn't necessarily get reflected in who your representatives are. We're just trying to rebalance the scales and frankly push back against a very unfair system created by the Democrats.
What we're seeing now is the other side finally deciding to fight back. This isn't about destroying democracy. It's about rebalancing the scales. It's a direct response to a system that has become fundamentally unfair. And only you, the forgotten men and women of America, are the ones that are paying the penalty. When one team gets to draw all the lines and stack the deck, you can't be surprised when the other team finally starts using the same rule book to even the playing field.
If you or a loved one is on Medicare, listen up. The Department of Justice just filed fraud complaints against 3 of the largest Medicare brokers for steering seniors to plans that had the highest kickbacks and not the best plans for you. This is why I recommend Chapter. Founded after the creator's own parents were scammed, Chapter is fully independent and searches every Medicare plan available to find what actually fits your need. No steering, no pressure, just honest help at zero cost to you. Chapter has saved the average senior over $1,100. If you need help with Medicare, call Chapter at 332-867-1305. You'll talk to a real person here in the United States. No pressing 1 for English. They're going to find the right plan for you. That's 332-867-1305.
This isn't just a squabble between politicians. It's about whether your vote actually matters. The real issue is that the professional political class in charge has forgotten they work for you. And when they get called out on it on live national television, their only defense is to distract and point fingers. But the American people are starting to see through the game. And I know, and you know, the game has changed it. November the 5th, 2024, the American people put forward a resolution, a demand to make America great again and for some level of accountability.
That Republicans care about power and nothing else. And for far too long, Democrats have cared about being right, coloring within the lines, following rules, and power has always been a secondary consideration. We need to absolutely flip that around and focus on power exclusively. It's why I'm encouraged by what I'm hearing by Governor Newsom in California, Governor Pritzker in Illinois, even Governor Hochul in New York. They're talking about seizing the initiative and redrawing their congressional boundaries to maximize Democratic Party advantage. We got to fight fire with fire. I mean, we wish the refs were going to call the fouls, that there were going to be penalties for what they are doing right now, but the refs have left the arena.
Yeah, they're or corrupted.
And to fight this out and to win. We got to be focused on it.
And now Donald Trump's Department of Justice, along with Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, and the laundry list of others, are starting to play the same game. Governor Abbott down in Texas is playing the same game that the Massachusetts governor, the New York governor, the Illinois governor, and now Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, is going to play. They are going to redraw congressional districts that benefit their party. At what point does the Supreme Court step in? Because Donald Trump is stepping in. He's demanding that the Commerce Department start up another census. Let's count the people that are here legally. Let's count the people that are real citizens. Let's give them a fair and balanced representation in Congress. This is Ben Dykes, and I'm the Ben Dykes Show. Thank you for tuning in. I'm a political insider, worked years in D.C., did a little time in the military, so I've been around the block and been a part of some meetings and conversations that maybe I shouldn't have. Thank you for watching. See you in the next one.